Hey guys, welcome to reacting and watching Pokemon creepypastas. So I've seen a little bit of this. I'll let you know where at the point where I got to, if I remember where it
It was a
was.
fairly standard Friday evening at GameStop. I had somehow convinced my dad to buy me a video game, so with a regretful glance at his
And
wallet
these
and a
are
sigh, he
all
led me into
from
the
No
store.
More
I ran from one
Creepypastas.
game to the next, indecisive over which
After
one
the
I should
stream,
get.
I'll link his channel in the description.
Most of the new games seemed tasteless and dull to me, so I went to check out some of the less recent games. Still none pleased me. That's when my eye caught the games that were on sale. I ran over to the on sale bin and found Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, Explorer of Sky. Sitting
If
atop
you want to know
all
what
the
this
others, I gasped.
one is called, it's called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Death.
I had been wanting this game for so long.
I was
Light
like,
reflected off
I
the
wonder
cover,
what
and
it's
it shone
about.
like a
And you
bright
know what
blazing
happened?
star. It seemed to be calling out to me, like it wanted me to buy it oh so badly, and I did. I eagerly picked up the game and ran over towards my dad, asking if he could buy it for me.
I have no
Seeing
clue
that
if
it was
his
half
videos
off,
have music,
he
I
happily
don't
agreed.
remember.
Both of us now content, we bought the game and drove home. The whole way back, I couldn't stop staring at the game case. I wanted to play it so much. I had never owned a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game before, but I had wanted one for so long. Now I finally had it in my grasp. I had read every word of the instruction manual at least 3 times by the time we pulled into our driveway. I hurriedly jumped out of the car and ran into my room. In no time at all, I found my DS and popped the game card in. I impatiently waited for the DS to load. Once the opening sequence started, I let out a fangirl squeal. It was much more amazing than I had thought it would be, and I hadn't even started playing the game yet. Once the title screen was loaded, I took a moment to stare and admire the beauty of the art. I dreamed that one day I would be talented enough to create such a marvelous pixel masterpiece. After I was finished cooing over the artwork, I started the game. I gasped when I saw more honestly, believing that I had the personality of a Vulpix. The result, I went back to the quiz. I'll just answer everything at random. Let's see if I get a Squirtle then. I answered all the questions without even looking at them. This time, I didn't really care if I didn't get a Vulpix. I just want to be something else besides a Squirtle. The results came in for the 3rd time. Squirtle. Gah! I shut my DS off. God, I'm such an idiot. How to get Vulpix? My problem.
Yeah, I'm skipping some of this because this is where
I
it
went
gets
back
more
into my Nintendo DS from my room and brought it into the computer room. Honey, me and your father are going into town for a while. Will you be all right by yourself for a few hours? My mother called to me from the kitchen. I'll be fine, I shouted back. Okay, we'll see you in a little while. I heard a door shut as my parents left. I didn't care if a meteor was crashing into the earth. All I was focused on at the moment was the Vulpix. I merely answered the questions according to what the internet said, excited that I would finally get to play the game as one of my favorite Pokemon. If this game lets me get a Haunter as one of my team members, then I'll be set, I mumbled to myself as I answered the questions. For the 4th time, the results came in. Yes! Yes! I shouted victoriously as the Vulpix icon appeared. Heh, 4th time's the charm, I said to myself as I walked back to my bedroom. The game led to the next screen, where I got to choose my partner. I chose a male Shinx, for I thought the idea of a Vulpix x Shinx couple was just too adorable to pass up. I proceeded to name him Shadow, in honor of Shadow the Luxray, my main Pokemon in Pokemon Diamond. From this point on, I didn't know what to expect. I had made sure not to read any spoilers on the storyline. I wanted to be surprised at what would happen to me in the game, and I sure as hell was. After I'd selected and named my partner, static formed on the screen for a split second, but it was over as soon as it started. I didn't really notice or pay any attention to the strange incident. I just wanted the game to start already. After taking a brief moment to load, the game started up. My Vulpix was lying on a beach at sunset. Nothing unusual there, but something else made me catch my breath. My Vulpix looked as if it was beat up and dying. Bruises and scratches covered the poor sprite as it lay in a pool of blood. What? Why is there blood in a Pokemon game? I whispered to myself. There was never blood in any Pokemon games. Then instead of worrying and getting suspicious, like I should have, I got a little excited. Maybe Nintendo has finally decided to take Pokemon to the next level. A Shink started to walk by my Vulpix, which I assumed was Shadow. But there was something strange about this sprite. Instead of the blue and black, he was white and dark gray. Oh, our partners get to be a special color! Oblivious to the obvious warnings that something was up with this game, I started to giggle. This game was so much more exciting than I thought. When Shadow noticed my Vulpix, his sprite appeared shocked and ran over towards mine. A text box for him appeared. Oh no, 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 no! He quickly walked up to my Vulpix and dragged her away as the screen faded to black. When the screen came up again, my Vulpix was alone in a dark cave with a fire in front of her. She stood up and stretched, and then appeared to wince in pain and fell down, shivering. Shadow then came back in, a berry in his mouth, and dropped it. Once he saw my Vulpix was awake, he ran over towards my Vulpix, and a text box appeared. Please lay down and don't move. Don't make any noise at all. Be as still and quiet as you can, or you and me will both regret it. My character stopped shivering. Good. Now you don't dare move a muscle. I shivered at how dare and muscle were in bold and italic text. My partner seemed mean. He then walked back over to the berry, picked it up, and brought it back to my Vulpix. Chew this slowly, and make as little noise or movement as possible. My Vulpix began to slowly eat the berry. After a few seconds, she had finished. Good job. Now, quietly whisper your name to me. Oh, please don't be who I know you are. Please, 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 by some miracle, be someone else. I found it odd how my partners, where I could select my letters to, I had come up with that name. Myself showed up. This time it stayed there for about 2 seconds and seemed to force me to take note. Moved the thought to the back of my mind. Once the static was gone, the game was back in the cave with Mira and Shadow. My Vulpix looked up at Shadow and slowly whispered her name to him. Shadow appeared extremely shocked and jumped backwards. Mira? He then regained control of himself and walked back up towards Mira. Yes, I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up so high. It seemed that his icon appeared next to his text box had a tear on it. He stood there for a moment staring at Mira. My Vulpix opened her mouth as if she were about to talk, but Shadow slammed his paw down hard on her muzzle. I told you not to dare talk. Mira started shivering and appeared that she would cry. When Shadow apologized, I'm sorry. Stop moving. Please stop. She'll hear you. I said stop! He started to charge up an electric attack, and Mira immediately became still as a stone. After a movement to see if Mira would move again, Shadow stopped his attack and sat down. His sprite seemed on the verge of crying. But please, don't move. Don't talk. Don't speak. Don't do anything. Please, help me. Then Shadow stood up and started walking out of the room. I swear to Arceus, you better not move while I'm thinking of something. Something hopeless.
It was
My partner went
rather.
off the screen and left my
I
character
don't
all
remember,
alone.
but it was like
I
after
dared
the
not
electric
click any
charge
buttons,
attack.
afraid
But
that I would accidentally make Mira move. I was scared that something really bad would happen. Shadow seemed pretty serious about me not doing anything. I became quite dull once nothing occurred after a minute or two, so I assumed that I was supposed to do something other than just lay there. But how can I do anything without moving? Then I figured that if I pressed the start button, it wouldn't make my character move, so I did so. The first option I clicked was on the items because I wanted to see if my Vulpix came with anything. She had one item, chains. I clicked on the info. These chains were found wrapped around your neck. You don't remember how you got them, but you can't take them off. It didn't do anything of great importance, so I clicked back and looked through all the other start options but found nothing else of interest. Shadow immediately came back, but he walked slow, like each step was giving him pain. Eventually, he stopped right in front of Mira. Tears were falling down his sprite's face. Stay still. Close your eyes. Don't move. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this, but it'll all be over soon. He started to charge up an attack that looked deadly. Lightning sparked from his paws and lit up the whole room. Mira appeared shocked. Don't move. Don't. Please. I promise. It'll only hurt for a second. The lightning grew brighter, and Shadow started to slowly step towards my Vulpix. Mira stood up. I said, don't move! Please, don't do that! Stop! With a great leap, Mira jumped over the fire and raced off screen. You fool! Mira, come back! Shadow chased off after my Vulpix. Once he ran off the screen, everything faded to black, and the static came back again, but a little longer than last time. I could have sworn I saw a very morbid-looking Squirtle flash for a brief second in the static, but I thought my imagination was getting the better of me.
That's not your imagination,
Finally,
my friend.
things are going to start getting good. Once the screen came back, Mira was in the middle of a dungeon. I finally got to get to
I know, right?
Something seemed odd about the cave, though. It was a dark crimson red with chains and other torture equipment lined up against the walls.
Yeah, I'm not
Skulls
surprised,
littered
though.
the floor. I felt a little uneasy now, since I didn't really think this kind of stuff was really fit for a Pokemon game. But I kept playing anyways.
This is why you
After
don't
walking
play
a couple of
haunted games.
steps, I found a Pokemon. A white and gray Rattata that limped with each step. It seemed as if it was in pain and looked shocked once it spotted me. It then became staringly scary and started walking towards Mira, as if it only had one intention and would do anything to achieve it. Kill. Being one of the most common and annoying Pokemon in the series, though, I figured it would take it out in one hit. When it reached me, though, it proved to be a challenging foe. It didn't deal much damage on me, but it took 5 whole turns to kill it off. Even though I hadn't played Mystery Dungeon before, I knew that I was dead if I ran out of power points for my moves, as I had no way of restoring it. Thankfully, there weren't many other Pokemon. But as I went through each floor, the scenes got more and more disturbing. Soon Pokemon body parts started appearing on the torture equipment. The skulls appeared to have bits of flesh still clinging onto them. Blood stains became frequent on the floor and walls. Each Pokemon I ran into was stronger than the last and more intent on killing me. After what seemed an eternity, I made it to the final floor, but not before the static appeared again. It was longer than the last, about 7 seconds, and I swear I saw Morbid Squirtle smiling at me again. Except this time, it was much more clear and vivid. I must be imagining things. I was beginning to become very unsettled, but I kept pushing onwards. I loved scary things like this, but there was still something more to the whole situation that gave me this odd feeling. Mira was in the middle of a large crimson-red room. Many skulls were strewn all across the floor, but that was it. You idiot! Mira, I finally found you! Shadow came running up from behind Mira. She quickly turned around and came face to face with her partner, who had ceased charging his attack, but quickly started again. You can't escape now. Stay still. Thank me. Please. This will hurt a lot less than what she will do. Now stay still and die. I couldn't control Mira, and even if I could, it would have been no use. There was nowhere left to run. What kind of game is this? My partner is gonna freaking kill me! At this point, I was just utterly irritated. Shadow's lightning attack kept growing brighter and brighter until the light hurt to look at it. This will hurt, but only for a moment. Now please, hold still. The screen started to static out again, but I could still see Mira and Shadow. Too late. I could hardly see Shadow stop his attack as the screen became less visible by the second. Eventually, it was all just static. And then in the middle of all the static came the Squirtle again, but only more horrifying now that I could see it clearly. And for more than just a brief second, its flesh was ripped off at parts, exposing internal organs and bones. Blood flowed out of numerous gashes all along its body. Its shell was cracked open, a vile, bubbling green goo pouring out. Its tail was very long and torn, just like the rest of its body. Its tail curled around a dagger at the end. But that's not even the worst. Its eye sockets were too large. The eyes themselves were shrunken, but still held a heart-piercing gaze. They were red and seemed to stare into your very soul. The top of its head was cracked open, exposing its still pulsing brain, even more blood gushing out of that. It had razor-sharp teeth, its grin stretching off the edge of its face. "You can't escape who you truly are." A high screeching voice emitted from the DS. I couldn't think straight. I wanted to turn away from the morbidly horrific image, but my eyes were forced to keep staring. "I am you," the creature said in a more soothing but still blood-chilling voice. Then the screen cut to black. I hadn't realized it had been holding my breath the whole time, so I let it out and started heavily breathing. Sweat was pouring down my face. I wiped it off with my shirt sleeve. My thoughts were still messed up after seeing such a disturbing scene. I'm not done yet. The heart-stopping voice returned as the screen suddenly came back. Mira was in the middle of a dark gray cave filled with surprisingly realistic Pokémon corpses scattered everywhere, and more bones. Everything was white, black, and gray except for Mira, and blood scattered all around the room. I thought this Squirtle was going to be a bit overboard with all these dead Pokémon everywhere. But then I realized I don't have to deal with this crap. I quickly pressed the button to turn my DS off, but it wouldn't work. "I'm not finished with you yet." The screeching voice that sounded like someone scraping a chalkboard came back. I tried to turn my volume down, but it wouldn't work either. "You're going to listen to me, whether you like it or not." The way Squirtle said "not" made my blood turn to ice. It sounded like a demon was speaking to me. I wouldn't be surprised if one was. I had no choice but to keep playing the game. I had only walked one step when one of the dead Pokémon started shaking and then stood up. It looked like a zombie Marill. Then it took a step towards Mira. Soon another corpse rose, a Poochyena. Soon all the bodies were regaining life and swarming around my poor Vulpix. Thankfully, they went down in just one hit. But it was hard to fend off so many of them. Just as I was about to run out of power points for all my moves, the last zombie fell. I quickly got Mira out of that floor before they were able to get up again. Instead of going to the next floor, Mira stepped out onto what looked like ancient ruins. Everything was still in white, gray, and black, though. I walked around trying to find something that could heal me, but to no avail. Then the dread static returned. I braced myself to encounter the horrid Squirtle again, but it never appeared. Instead, the static would appear and disappear. In the brief moments where I could see the screen normally, Shadow would come back. He appeared beat up and worn down. Blood streaks were left where he had walked. "Mira, he actually was talking through the speakers, and I didn't need to use a text box, but Static was cutting him off. For your own good, Static. Must kill you. It's better Static again. Quick and easy, Static. I'm sorry." Through the static, I could see him charge up that attack again. This time it looked more powerful than it had before. Then he leaped at Mira and struck her. I reeled back in pain, screaming as he hit Mira. Not only because it affected my Vulpix, but I felt the pain myself too. I felt off the side of my bed, screeching at the top of my lungs. I could feel electricity scorching through my veins. Why did I have to play this game when my parents weren't at home? The pain was unbearable, but it was over in a few seconds. I gasped and clutched my chest, struggling to breathe. My body ached all over, but I reached for my DS. I needed to see what happened next. The static was gone, but I wish it had still been there so I wouldn't have to see the scene that laid before my eyes. Shadow was sliced neatly in half, a bleeding mass lying on the floor of the ruins. Mira was charred black. She gasped and ran over towards him. He looked up towards her. "I'm sorry, Mira. I failed." His voice still spoke through the speakers. He gasped in pain and then laid his head down, unmoving. Tears started falling down my cheeks, even though he had tried to kill me. I knew it was to save me from the suffering from that cursed Squirtle. I took a moment to grieve for my lost friend. Now I awaited for my fate. A low laughter started to emit from the speakers, so low it was almost inaudible. It slowly started to get louder and louder and louder until it was so loud my ears were aching. Then it stopped abruptly. Something flashed by Mira at lightning speed, wounding her. I fell backwards as I felt the blow too. Then his flash by it again, wounding her, wounding me. This repeated several times until I felt as if I was about ready to die. Mira laid on the floor of the ruins, shivering. Time to finish this.
Well, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. See you